Hello everybody, it's Fiona here again from the Highlands of Scotland, and I thought I would just do this for us. Everybody's feeling a bit strange in these uncertain times at the moment and fed up and going a bit stir crazy. So I've been trying to come up with some ideas of wee bits and bobs that we can do that's really aimed at beginners and that you could do feeling, you know, really quite clever afterwards. So here we are. This is a beautiful little penguin chick. I've drawn out the penguin. If you want to take a screenshot of the screen, you might be able to use that as a template for your wee penguin. He's adorable, isn't he? And it's very simple shapes, but I thought I'd draw it out. I actually drew it out on the card first before I thought about doing any kind of template, but that's as simple as it is. It's just a few round shapes. So I'll put that off to one side, and I've got my penguin here. Now what I've done is I've just put a base coat of slate grey in here, and I like to do that maybe 15 minutes beforehand, just so that it can dry off and it's not getting your paint all muddy all the time. It just saves you a lot of bother as you're going along. Right, now I want to tell you about the brush. It's a brush that we've not used before, and I think you really enjoy this one. It's really nice. So this is called the deerfoot brush, and if you have a look at it, if you could just imagine it was a little deer's foot walking along. Can you see that? So it's quite a bristly brush. This is quite a big one actually. You can get them in different sizes, so there's this one that's quite small, that's probably about 1/4 inch, that's probably a 3/4, and that's 1/4 I think. But look at it, it is so bare and scruffy, but it's my favourite brush because over the years I've wore it down and it makes things so really fluffy now. But I'm sure eventually. This brush is something that you don't really have to put in water an awful lot, and you can really be quite cruel to it in that you're bashing it about all the time. So these are the brushes that we're going to use to do this lovely penguin. Okay, right, so the paint. So we've got the paint out. As you know, I like to use the Americana paint, and the paint we've got here is lamp black, titanium white and slate grey. I think that's all I'm going to use, but we'll bear with it and see if we need any more. Now, what you do with this, you don't wet the brush at all, you just use it dry. And I'm very sorry at the state of this brush, it's really, really bad. So what you do, I'm going to load up with white paint, and you just pounce into there and bring it out so that you've got this kind of stippled effect like that. And then I'm going to take a tiny dab of the slate grey, and you can see that you've got this kind of variation of colour, and that's what I'm going to do. So hang on, I'll just make sure I've got plenty of paint so it lasts me a wee while. Right. And what I'm going to do, I want to make him really fluffy. I'll try and come a bit closer for you just so that you can see what I'm doing. So it's a bit of an awkward brush to get into tight angles, so we'll just see how we go here. So can you see how fluffy that is? So I go round the edge first, like that. Look how fluffy he's looking already. And you want a wee bit of that grey to show through. I'm just going to maybe put a tiny bit of the dark in there. He's perhaps a bit too light on his wings. Oh goodness, I've maybe gone too dark now. So let's try that again, and I'm just tapping it in, as you can see, and you just push the brush down and you just stipple, really, that's all. It's very simple, and make a really fluffy penguin. I nearly called him a bear. I'm sure I'll refer to him as a bear as we're going along, because it's usually bears that we do this with. So I'm just turning him upside down just to make it easier for me, and I'll do his other wing. So I'm just trying to manoeuvre the brush a little bit so that I don't get paint absolutely everywhere. You can see that you literally are just stippling with this brush. There we are, that's his wings. Bring him back round, and we'll go ahead and do his head. He's really cute, isn't he? So I think what I'll do is go all the way round the edge first. You see? Oh, he's so cute. There we go. Oh, I'll just pick a bit more paint up. So you just go backwards and forwards and you keep pouncing it on. He's really fluffy. This brush really is a fluffy brush now. I think the hair's nearly come out of it. I don't think it will last me too much longer. And I'm just stippling, you see? And a bit more around here. There we go. And you can make him as fluffy as you want. So I'm just pouncing that brush up and down just to get him nice and fluffy. Okay, now his tummy and his face is really quite light. It's still grey, but it's a lot lighter than the head part, so I'm just going to make sure that I keep this a bit lighter. I'm going to paint his face in with a round brush, but I'm going to do his belly with this, his tummy. And we'll just, you can go in all different directions just to get it all fluffed up. Can you see? Some white on the tips, and I'll bring him. I'm not very good with the angle. I'm worried that you're not able to see it very well. But we'll go with it and see. There we go. Perhaps if I bring it towards me a little bit. Let's give that a go and see. You just keep pouncing it on like that and stipple, stipple, stipple. And the more you do it, the fluffier he'll become. Here we go. I don't know if you can hear a noise in the background. It's my dog, and he was snoring a little minute ago, just in case you thought it was me. He's called Barnum, and he's a lovely big black Labrador, and he likes to be with me all the time, so if he sees me coming in to the studio to paint, he wants to be right by my side, but he usually gets fed up and has a good old snore. Right, I'm going to just turn it upside down so that it's a better angle for you, and I'm just going to keep going until we get that all filled up. And actually, the more random you do it, the more realistic it will look, because they've got their fluff. They're not really feathers yet. It's more like down, and it's kind of going in all sorts of different directions. So it's not all just lying flat. You know, when they're an adult penguin, it's just so majestic and all lying flat and beautiful. But the cuteness of these ones are because they're just so fluffy. Now what you could do with this as well, you could make it put on cards or anything like that. You could add a scarf to him, you could put a hat on him, you know, you could really do anything you wanted. I'm not going to do that today, but I just wanted you to know that I have done in the past, and I've not actually done one as big as this one before. I usually do really quite small ones. So this was a first for me when I was doing this one. So I just want to make him a bit more fluffy with that white. There we are. And you can just go over this as many times as you want, you know, until you're happy that you've got how you want it to be. Oh, I like that better. He's got a bit more fluff now. All that beautiful down, and it all comes out. There we go. Perhaps a tiny bit just there. Okay. So there he is. And I'm now going to put this brush in the water because it's not had any water in it at all, and it would dry like that and be terrible. In actual fact, it's happened to me a few times, and that's why the brush is in such a sorry state. So I'm just going to pop that into water, and I've got just a small round brush here that I'm going to paint his face in and his feet. So I'm just going to do the face. I'm going to do it grey, but it's hardly grey at all, it's more white. And I'll go over the eyes. We can always pop the eyes in afterwards. It's just easier than having to try and paint round that. You could do this with a deerfoot brush. I've got that small deerfoot brush that I could do it with, and I could probably get into here. But just if you find that difficult and awkward when you're first starting out to do that, I wanted to just show you that you could just paint it in ordinarily. Oh, I've forgotten that he's got that little bit under his nose there too. So I would probably give that a couple of coats for his face. Let's just bring that round a bit like that. There we are. If you didn't want it to be quite as flat as that, you could just sort of dab in so it still looks a wee bit fluffy, you know, it's not completely flat. But so that's another way you could just stipple with your brush like that. And then his feet, I'm just going to make them a little bit darker, so I'm using the black and the slate grey together, and they're just sort of like round toes really, they're not much showing. You could have them as big or as little. I might make his feet quite big because that would be quite cute, I think. Let's make his feet a bit bigger than that. Bring them out like that. Like that. You can see I'm not awfully careful. You know, I don't worry too much if it's perfect. And maybe just a bit of a highlight look on his tootsies. So that is feet. They do have sort of claws, but I'm not going to bother with that. And they've actually got a really dark beak. So we'll do that same colour here for the beak. Oh, wait a minute, I know what I've got to do. I'll use that tiny deerfoot brush just to put the bit under his chin in, just so that this bit here, look, just so it's fluffy. Could actually just bring that round there too. See how small this Deerfoot brush is. If you can get these small ones, they're really worth having because you can get into all these nooks and crannies. Put a tiny bit of white on that just so it's... There we go. And I'm just going to paint in his beak. So his beak's probably the darkest part of him, the same as his feet. So I will just put that in. And because he's just a little chick, it's a kind of a diamond shape, like this. So I'm just using a small round brush, like that. It's a little bit fiddly. Oh, that needs to be dark. I don't know if you can hear Barnum snoring now. But he's just, he's so funny. There we are. And what I think I'll do, just put a little bit of a line down there so that you can see that's his beak, like that. And then for his eyes, I'm going to use the end of the brush just to do his eyes. So what I'll do is I'll do white, a bit of a white dot first, maybe just make a circle like that. There we go. And as I say, I would probably let that dry before I put the dot in, but I think I'd maybe just put his eyes in like that. If you wanted to, you could give him eyelashes or tufts or anything you want. So I've got a small, very fine brush here, and what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to give him a couple of kind of curls. That's so his mummy knows who he is. She knows it's her baby. There we are. So he's just got a little bit of an extra tuft coming out. And underneath his eye here, look, I'll just use that fine brush and just put a couple of lines in. Maybe make that dot slightly bigger. That's better. That's much better. There we are. And then I'm going to get this round brush and I'll just dry it off a little bit. And we could have him sitting on some snow, couldn't we, here? So just, you could actually use the Deerfoot brush to do this. I perhaps should have done this bit first. He's sitting on the ice. And I'm just tapping that on, really, just to give him something to stand on. And he's waiting there for his mummy to bring him some nice fish. There we go. Maybe a wee bit more here. I hope you've enjoyed doing this with me today. I've really enjoyed showing you. I'm going to try and keep making some of these videos, and I'm going to make them as simple as I can, so that you can paint along, and whilst all this uncertainty in the world is going on, we'll have something to do. I've just got to try and come up with a few more ideas. Okay, so it's been lovely spending an afternoon with you, and I hope to see you soon. Check in on me again